Well, hello and welcome to this new series of training courses that is discussing security administration within Sage CRM. Today we're going to be looking at creating and using teams. And this is just the first of 10 lessons covering these topics of security administration within Sage CRM. We're starting with teams, but we will be going on then and looking at all of the other aspects of Sage CRM that are addressed by security. And nearly all of these topics, if they are discussed in standalone, also relate to each other. So I will be touching on other aspects of not only security, but other features as I go through in this session. So specifically in today's lesson, we're looking at how to create new user teams that can be used to control workflow and control access to data. I'm treating this from the perspective of the user team rather than workflow or from within other security profiles. They are going to be touched on later on within this series, and so I'm wanting to keep these as short, bite-sized amounts of information. And everything we're doing in this particular series of training will go up onto the YouTube training YouTube support and training channel that we have, and you can see that there's already a lesson there, a course called Security Administration, and so these lessons are going to be replacing some of the older lessons. To start off with, though, we have to start at the beginning, and the way in which we're going to do this is I'm going to log on to a demo system, and here you can see that I'm using the user Brian Little. Now, Brian is a salesperson. He's working in the direct sales team in North America, and he looks after sales in the US West territory. And you can see that I've logged on now, and I'm looking at his My CRM environment, looking at the opportunities that he's been assigned. Now, by default, he has 10 opportunities that are associated directly with him. He's the owner of those. And I can then go across, because he is in the direct sales team, I can go across and look at not just his work, but I can look at his team's work as well. So this actually is now showing the team opportunities. These are the ones that are all associated with his particular team. So all of the opportunities that his whole team are displayed here. You can see the team that he's a member of at the top of the top content. Now, I've already mentioned that this particular sales user personally owns 10 opportunities. However, because they're a member of the direct sales teams, they should be able to see many more opportunities that are assigned to all of the members of that team. Now, I know in this example, we're only seeing one additional record, but that ability to see a record is down to the fact that each opportunity is tagged with a team, and the user has permission to see the records belonging to that team, so long as they fulfill other security rules. So there's immediately an intersection here with security. So if I step on again and start thinking about where else we might go. Now, you can see that I was looking there at direct sales, but every user is part of a single team, but they may be given V rights over other teams. Now, this would be important where you have different teams looking after different parts of a process or a workflow. And what we can think of is about the process that would take a lead all the way through to being a one opportunity. We could even extend that process to thinking not only do we start off with a lead, we go through to a process, we can even then think in terms of the customer service aspects of what goes on after that as well, crossing multiple teams. So here, though, I'm looking into another team, and you can see that I've just come into looking at telesales, but it doesn't look like here that they have any opportunities. Not that Brian Little has rights to see anyway. But if I go on to looking at the leads area, you can see here that the telesales team does have access to and does show that they've got lots of these very low grade opportunities that are here still in their team responsibility. Excuse me. So they do have leads. The full process contains this idea of a lead being seen through into an opportunity. The workflow process can see to an item of work moving from one team to another. If I switch back to the team that I was originally looking at, which of course is Brian Little's, we can see that in this case there is nothing for the user to see. There's nothing in his primary team, which is direct sales, but we've just seen he has the rights to be able to see what's going on in other teams for the process that he's interested in. Now, in Sage CRM, a team can be thought of as a channel through which a record, such as an opportunity or a case, is progressed. Essentially, it's a processing channel, with the workflow rules moving between teams as the responsibility passes from one functional group to another. So think of a team like marketing team, telesales team, direct sales team, or even the sales operations team, representing a functional group that carries out a particular stage of responsibility. And the idea of a team then is one in which determines which users can see and act on a record, and the team membership can be of a particular record can be changed automatically by workflow rules, and there may be overlap with a step in the business process. So if you think about how an opportunity or a case maybe moves through its life cycle, changing the team is effectively this record or this entity has now entered a different part of the organization, and that different part of the organization is going to do a different type of work. That's exactly what we mean by this concept of a processing channel or a team. Now, please note that teams are not static labels. They're used in these business rules that we define through workflow. So when a record is created, when a record is created, that workflow, the create rule of the workflow, can automatically assign it to a team. And as the record progresses through its life cycle, the workflow could actually change it to a different team. So if you're just thinking about the opportunity stage, if you've got an opportunity in progress and it has this process that you have to go through, which is to prepare the demo, then you might move that across into the pre-sales team, and it becomes the pre-sales person's team members' responsibility to be able to complete the necessary preparation for an opportunity and then return it back to another team or to another individual. So this allows for the responsibility of a record to move between different departments, and the pattern might be that the lead starts in marketing, It then moves to tele-sales for nurturing, and then direct sales when it's been qualified, and then eventually, if the sale has been won, it moves to sales operations. Now let's look at how we create and manage teams. So to do this, we can jump across, and I'm going to open up another session of Sage CRM. Here it is. I'm going to log on as a system administrator. So I've logged on, and I need to get into the administration screens. And then in the administration screens, I need to come down into the users area. This is where most of we're going to working in this course as we discuss security. So I need to come into the administration users screen, and you can see that I've got a option on the second row of the icons called Teams. And now I'm looking at a find for the different teams that exist. And you'll notice that the filter box that we have here, the search box, is identifying 3 fields. I'll talk about those fields in a moment, but probably the most easy and obvious thing to identify is the idea of the team description. And if I just click the find button, we can see that this comes back to the defined teams that exist inside the demo system. There isn't a natural automatic understanding of what any company might have as its team. They can have names like certainly one of the early consultancies that I did, they had divided their sales teams into different groups, which they simply named after sports cars. So it was Ferrari, Lamborghini, etc. So these were just the names that represented the group of people who carried out a particular function. If I step forward and actually click the new button, and I'm looking now at this process of creating a new team, you can see that I can define our team description. We've got a broker rule, and we've got a third field here, which is the owner field. Now, these 3 fields, you can see that I've just dropped in their pre-sales as a name. So this is the name of the team, pre-sales, direct sales, etc. And this is the name that will also become the default caption displayed in the team's list drop-down fields. So wherever a team is referenced, this is what is shown. Please note that if you come back and change it subsequently, you'd also have to change an associated automatic entry that had been made in the translations table. So in internal systems, if you're dealing with an international system, teams can be called different things in different languages. Now, if I look at the other fields then, this field is called the broker rule, and the broker rule is used when creating a task for a group. This is something that is covered in more detail inside the training course for marketing and reporting features, and there is a section on working with groups and assigning things, but we'll stick for this at the moment in just reminding us that the idea of a broker rule is that it's how work is going to be allocated, either through a round robin or through a queue. Now, if you don't specify, then the default is queue. The next one is the owner of the team. This field is not used by any standard Sage CRM functionality. It exists in here for potential customization, and really we can understand that the idea of teams is extendable, but for most implementations you can safely ignore the idea of the owner for a team. If I save this now, the team will become available immediately. So it will be able to be assigned to users. It can be assigned to any of the records that can be assigned to a team, and it can be used in workflow and reassignment teams as well. And so from this point, the team will behave exactly like any other team inside the system. And if we have saved, as I have just done here, then I can populate the team by moving existing users into the team or by linking new users as they're added into the system. You can see on the top right there, it's just a question of looking at move user to the team, or when we look at the concept of the user profiles, security profiles, and also in the next lesson tomorrow, which is looking at user templates, we'll be discussing the idea of being able to use automatic association with the template to a particular team. But if I want to come back to thinking about what I was saying earlier, the team broker rule and how it works, well, let's take a step back and understand this as a high level. The concept is that when we come to create a task from within a group, the idea of a round robin is that the rule assigns whatever specified number of tasks is associated evenly to each user in the selected team, and it ensures that it's a very equal distribution of the work across team members. If you went down the route of choosing Q, which is the default, the rule assigns a specific number of tasks when you're working with a group to the selected team. So tasks can be manually distributed between the team members, and the Q broker rule can only be used if the team has been selected. So this idea then is all to do with managing workflow distribution amongst team members efficiently. If I go back into Sage CRM, here you can see that from within my screen where I've just created my new team, the broker rule is used principally when we are creating tasks from a list or from a group, or when we're running campaigns, as I said, outbound calls as well will use the idea of being able to associate things. So I've come back now looking at my idea of groups. Inside the group, I can associate this with the idea of creating a new item of work. I can then see where I have got the broker rule for the option at the bottom, which says round robin. Well, if I specify this creation using the group to work with a particular territory, using the idea of an associated giving a name here, this is a sales checkup, putting in some other details, and making sure that it's associated with a particular territory, and also with a particular, as you can see here, a particular team. So if I save this is going to save the however many records that we have, and then that is created as my round robin task with the group. And if I go back and think about what that means in terms of the calendar, I can see these tasks have all been added into the calendar. And that would have been distributed across the team. So the creation of communications using the broken rules as I said, is actually covered in more detail in the marketing and reporting features training, where defining and using groups is discussed. But I do need to end with one last thought, and that's really about how teams intersect with security. So if I think about that, what we've seen so far is that teams do form part of the control of what users can see and do. So if we consider an opportunity, or we consider the example I've just looked at is the idea of working with communications, but also with cases, a user is going to have a primary team and can have a permission to look at another team's work, but the record is only ever associated with a team. It does mean the two users in the same team may see the same records, but if they're in different security territories, for example, they won't be able to see that. But they may have, even if they can see exactly the same records, they may then have very different capabilities of what they can do with it based on the whole aspect of their profile. Now, that control of the team and it is then you intersecting with a number of different things. In summarizing these key areas, we have to understand that the teams represent the functional groupings within a company or an organization. The users can belong to a single primary team, but they may be associated with multiple display teams. And records are only ever assigned to a single team, and it's the teams, the membership of the teams, will therefore control who can see and work with data. Now, workflow can make a record move between different teams. Remember, the teams are the groupings of the users who represent the different functional functions with an organization. When it comes to the idea of allocating work, broker rules control task assignments when work is assigned to a team. What I hope you've seen there, though, is that the teams are very simple to create, but they work with a lot of other features, whether it's workflow or whether it is security, to actually have a very powerful impact on the system and the whole of the user experience inside Sage CRM. Now, I am just about at the end of what I wanted to say about teams there. We're going to be picking these ideas up and using them in the forthcoming lessons. So as we go on and discuss not only the concept of the user template, but the setup of the users themselves, we will explore more about the functional groups within a particular team. It doesn't have an overlap with one of the other phrases which unfortunately exists there, which is called company teams, but we'll be explaining that concept a little bit later on. But everything there matches or intersects with the other topics that we'll be looking at. Now let's see, does anyone have any questions at this point? So thank you very much for coming along. I do look forward to seeing you in our next session. So thank you and goodbye.